This is Joe. Joe wakes up at 6:47 a.m., 13 minutes before his alarm, because his body has developed an evolutionary response to dread. His bladder is full. His back hurts. The ceiling has a water stain that looks like Florida, which feels appropriate because Florida is also slowly sinking. He lies there for exactly 13 minutes, counting the seconds until the alarm screams, because getting up early would be surrendering to the day before the day has officially demanded his surrender. This is the closest Joe gets to rebellion. The apartment is a one-bedroom shrine to functional depression. Everything is beige or gray, or that specific shade of white that landlords use because it photographs well and hides nothing. The refrigerator hums like it's trying to tell him something important but forgot what. Joe suspects it's dying. He's looked up the replacement cost. The refrigerator will outlive his lease, probably out of spite. Breakfast is coffee and whatever protein bar is on sale, which this week tastes like chocolate-covered cardboard with a hint of broken promises. The box says, "Packed with energy." Joe feels this is technically true, in the same way a bomb is packed with energy. He eats it standing up, looking at his phone, scrolling through news about inflation he can't afford to care about and wars he can't afford to stop. The commute is 23 minutes of sitting in traffic so dense that Joe has memorized the bumper stickers of the cars around him. There's a Honda Civic that wants him to coexist, and a pickup truck that has strong feelings about immigration. Neither of them is moving. Joe is Switzerland, neutral and trapped between them. He parks in spot B47, which costs $180 a month, which is more than his groceries, but less than his therapy would cost if he could afford therapy. The parking garage smells like concrete and resignation. Joe takes the elevator to the 7th floor, where he will spend the next 9 hours doing something that his job description calls administrative coordination, and that he calls sending emails about other emails. His cubicle is decorated with nothing. This is intentional. Decoration implies permanence, implies that this is a place where part of his soul lives. Joe refuses to grant the cubicle this dignity. "Morning, Joe," his computer says. Except it doesn't say this. It just blinks to life with that particular aggressive brightness that feels accusatory. He has 47 unread emails. 46 of them could have been a single sentence. One of them is about the broken coffee machine on the 3rd floor. Joe works on the 7th floor. He does not know why he receives these emails. He suspects no one does. By 10:30 a.m., Joe has attended a meeting about scheduling a meeting about a project that was canceled 3 weeks ago, but nobody told the meeting scheduler. Sarah from compliance. No, wait, there's no Sarah. There are no other characters. The meeting happens anyway. Joe's camera is off. He is eating a banana and wondering if this is what his English degree was for.
Ugh, another meeting about a meeting. Yes, I'm here.
Lunch is $12.47 at the place downstairs that sells sandwiches that taste like they're apologizing for existing. Joe's sandwich is turkey and Swiss, which the menu calls the classic. A name that suggests tradition and warmth, but delivers neither. He eats at his desk. Taking a lunch break would mean acknowledging that there's a difference between work time and lifetime, and Joe can no longer locate this boundary. The afternoon is a performance art piece titled "Looking Busy While Accomplishing Nothing." Joe has perfected the mouse scrolling, the furrowed brow that suggests deep concentration, while his mind calculates whether he can afford both electricity and groceries this month if he wants to also refill his prescription. The math doesn't work. It never works. The economy is a magic trick where everyone's wallet gets lighter, but nobody knows where the money went. At 3:15 p.m., Joe receives his bi-weekly paycheck notification. The number is deposited directly into his account and then immediately vanishes like a magician's assistant, reappearing in various places. Rent, student loans for a degree that qualified him to send emails about emails, car insurance, health insurance, renter's insurance, insurance for his insurance, probably. He's left with $143 for the next 2 weeks. His therapist would call this financial anxiety. Joe calls it Thursday. He Googles how to save money and gets articles written by people who suggest giving up avocado toast. Joe hasn't bought an avocado since 2019. He gave up avocado toast and is still poor, which means the articles are either lying or he needs to give up something more essential, like shelter or breathing. 5 o'clock arrives not like relief, but like parole. Joe packs up nothing because he brought nothing. He leaves the building and feels the specific emptiness of having spent 9 hours without actually having lived them. They're gone, vanished, evaporated into the ether of productivity metrics and quarterly reports. He cannot get them back. Nobody can. The commute home is 23 minutes of brake lights and existential crisis. Joe listens to a podcast about success. The host is 23 and made $1 million selling an app that reminds you to drink water. Joe drinks water without being reminded and has made $0 from this. Dinner is pasta with butter because the grocery store has increased pasta prices by 40%, but Joe's salary has increased by 0. The math is simple and devastating. He eats in front of the TV, watching a show about a guy who solves crimes using genius-level intellect. Joe solves the mystery of how to stretch $143 for 2 weeks. This also requires genius-level intellect, but receives no awards. Before bed, Joe brushes his teeth and looks in the mirror. 35 years old. Blonde hair thinning at the crown. 15 pounds he keeps meaning to lose. Eyes that have seen too many spreadsheets. He looks like everyone and no one. He looks exactly like what the world wants him to be. Present, but not noticeable. Productive, but not ambitious. Alive, but not troublesome. He sets his alarm for 7 a.m. He gets into bed. The ceiling stain still looks like Florida. And Joe thinks, with the kind of clarity that only comes at the end of very long days in very small lives. This is it. This is the dream. I am living the dream. And the dream is a 1-bedroom apartment with a dying refrigerator. And I can't even afford to wake up. But here's the thing about Joe. He's not alone. Maybe you've counted 13 minutes until your alarm. Maybe you've eaten that apologetic sandwich. Maybe you've looked at your paycheck and watched it evaporate before your eyes, wondering where exactly the dream went wrong. Maybe you've stared at your own ceiling stain and thought about how much it costs just to exist. Joe's life is a puzzle with missing pieces. A game where the rules keep changing, but the players stay broke. And maybe, just maybe, there's a way out. A side hustle that doesn't feel like a scam. A budget hack that actually works. A decision that breaks the cycle instead of continuing it. What would you do if you were Joe? What's the one thing he could change tomorrow that might make Thursday feel less like Thursday? Because Joe's going to wake up again at 6:47 a.m. And the question is, what happens next? Let me ask you something. If you opened your banking app right now, would you open it casually? Or would you take a deep breath first? If you understand why Joe stares at the number instead of paying it, there's probably more overlap there than you'd like to admit. Joe isn't dramatic. Joe isn't reckless. He's statistically normal, which is somehow worse. So be honest. Does Joe look a little familiar? If even 20% of this feels relatable, join us. In the next episodes, we're going to try something bold. We're going to see if Joe can actually escape the math. Step by step, interest rate by interest rate, rent increase by rent increase. Subscribe to the channel, not because we have a magic solution, but because watching Joe fight back against the system is significantly cheaper than paying 24% APR. And unlike his credit card company, we don't charge interest.